Serious, women of Reddit who were proposed to by their so and said no. What's your story? He thought asking me to marry him and tattooing private property of op would be a good way to make me forget serial cheating.
Dating a guy for a few years. Was 20 years old at the time. Very controlling, wasn't going great. We were opening Christmas presents with his family when he asked. He proposed while saying he loved the woman I would become one day. I said yes in public, but no in private. If you don't even love me now, why propose now? Needless to say, it didn't last long.
At X, I told him things were going downhill and I wanted to end things, so he decided to propose to me. Thank God not in public, as an attempt to get me to stay. I said no.
This is one for me. I have done this twice. We were dating for about 4 years, and were in our early 20s. I felt unsure about our rest of life compatibility and suggested we needed to have some serious conversations to work out our plans moving forward after uni. All of these conversations made me increasingly sure we were incompatible. Surprise, surprise, they made him increasingly sure about the future and he wanted to get married. We were literally doing the deed under a lit Christmas tree at 3 a.m. and he asked me to marry him. I said we weren't ready, bad plan. He still didn't have any idea what that would look like or how we would work out some fairly serious things around our location, jobs, etc. Eventually I got tired of saying no to a marriage I didn't think would work, and felt pushed and trapped. So I broke up with him. We remain friends. I was a bridesmaid in his wedding a couple years ago. It was the right choice. Only dating very briefly. He proposed in a restaurant, with a terrifyingly large ring, and provided me a PDF copy of his tax return so I could see he would be a good provider. Everything he did told me he hadn't really ever listened to me or got to know me properly. I said yes in the restaurant, to avoid causing embarrassment, and called it all off afterwards. He turned into an obsessive stalker and I had to get an avo in the end.
I had an ex-boyfriend that I hadn't even seen or spoken to in 3 months show up to my parents' house at 3 a.m. My stepmom would stay up to all hours of the night watching TV, so she saw his car lights when he pulled into the side driveway. She came and got me furious he was there and asked why I lied about breaking up with him. I had to explain we were broken up and I had no idea why he was there. When I went outside, he was leaning on his car looking love-struck and crazy. He told me that the universe wanted us together and it was cosmic fate. He then pulled out a frat boy bottle opener ring with a cat toy tied to it and told me he had an important question to ask me. I told him no flat out before he even asked. I pointed at his car and told him to go home. When he asked why, I listed all the things that led me to break up with him, including him dropping out of school multiple times and not having a job once during our 2-year relationship. He told me he did have a job now. When I asked where he worked, because I knew he was lying, he looked me in the eyes and said if he told me that he'd have to kill me. I had enough and told him to get the hell off my family's property, and he left reluctantly, telling me he'd be back. I never saw him again, but I heard through the grapevine that he told others that he had shown up in a tux with a huge diamond ring that I threw on the ground. I used to wonder what would have happened if my stepmom didn't see his car pull up. Sorry for typos, I'm on mobile.
A girl I was casually dating, not even in a relationship with, proposed in front of her toddler niece and nephews and a large crowd of people at the aquarium. Even asked her nephew, "Do you want up to be anti-op?" with the ring in hand. I said yes in public and then no privately. Never saw her again after that one.
He brought me up to his apartment, about a 2-hour drive from my college. I was basically trapped there. He asked me while he was feeling insecure about the relationship and figured a proposal would lock me in place. I dodged it for a few days, but I needed to get back to classes and he wouldn't take me back till I said yes. I figured he was a bright guy and would come to his senses eventually. He got me back to school. Eventually he realized that coercion is not a good proposal strategy.
Sold my great-grandmom's wedding set to buy a gaudy diamond monstrosity of a ring. I had asked him to use the engagement ring to propose with, as I would have been the 4th generation to wear it. He said it was ugly and awful and wouldn't have his woman wearing second-hand garbage. I dumped his ass and got the set back from the pawn shop. Just realized this was the second time I dumped a guy based on this kind of behavior. I sure can pick 'em.
X asked me over lunch to marry him. He'd broken up with me about once a week for the last few months over nothing. He had serious emotional mood issues that have now been diagnosed, but he was just a really difficult person to be around in general. I started laughing because it was just absolutely ridiculous. He asked why I was laughing and I brought up how he broke up with me every single week. He flat out said he wanted to get married because then he knew he wouldn't be able to leave, as if that stopped people from just getting a divorce. We broke up for good not long after this, but the whole thing was bananas.
A few years back, I was dating this guy. At first, he seemed very kind, sweet and happy. Handsome too. I thought he was a great catch, especially as some toxic friends of mine were lowering my self-esteem. A few months after we started dating, he started changing. It was subtle at first. He would stop spending time with me and blaming me for it. Then came the gaslighting and manipulation. He started isolating me from my family, and hurting me when I refused to do things for him. Eventually, I got the strength to deal with the situation and tell him that we were over. To get me to stay, he hosted a large party with lots of friends and publicly asked me to marry him. I said no.
We were 19 and 21 and had been together for 2 years. He took me to Paris, pulled out all the stops and proposed under the Eiffel Tower. I told him it wasn't a no, it was a not yet, if he would wait. I wanted to travel and knew I was too young for marriage. We ended up traveling together, making amazing memories through the years. We got engaged when I was 24 and married when I was 27 in the most perfect service, and have been happily married 4 years next week.
My ex was an abusive narcissist. I was 21, very naive, first relationship, he was 54 and divorced. I had been gaslit and pushed into the relationship but didn't realize that until later. He demanded keys to my apartment and passwords but refused to give me his and a whole list of crap like this. Now I wouldn't put up with it, but at the time I did. He proposed at 11 months, but by then he was verbally and emotionally abusive and had come close to hitting me. My sperm donor father was a very abusive alcoholic, so I only have memories of his BS and I knew I didn't want to repeat the abuse cycle. My mom, grandma, and aunt have all had abusive husbands and I didn't want it to continue with me. Once ex-BF became abusive, I warned him to knock that beep off or I'd leave. He proposed after calling me a stupid beep. I followed through. I changed the locks in my apartment and my passwords. He actually called me after I changed my passwords screaming about it. I broke up with him. Why the hell is he trying to get into my stuff? After a few weeks of me refusing to go back to him, he contacted my boss and accused me of stealing and contacted the fire department I volunteered with and accused me of endangering my team to showboat and get attention. Thankfully both believed me over him and he was blacklisted. He tried to show up several more times at FD events and he was always immediately escorted off property. I'm still glad I got rid of that a-hole.
I had a boyfriend cheat on me so many times. The breakup was hard, but then he got activated from the military reserves. I didn't meet anyone till 2 months before he came back. The whole time I wanted him back, but he and I weren't really officially together, and I knew he was talking to another girl the whole time he was gone. He came back, and saw the other girl first. He says to break up with her, yeah right, and I realized I didn't like him, thank God. He showed up at my apartment, saw me with my new boyfriend, and proposed in a crying fit. It was horrid. 3 months earlier and I'd have done it, but thank God for the timing of things.
I loved him. If he asked me to get married 3 days before, I would have said yes, but I received a message 2 days before the proposal from someone telling me that he was part of a gang, with proof and everything.
He was a piece of beep and I was just biding my time to leave, simple.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.